We're here on Alupna Island Station on the Murray River in northern Victoria, putting in the groundwork for a story for R.M.Williams Outback magazine. One of the great things about working on Outback is that we get to look all over Australia for things that fire our interest and imagination and that we can share with our readers. We're always looking for positive stories and for ways in which people in the bush are meeting their challenges and adapting to an ever-changing world. On Alupna, change is certainly afoot. But in this instance, some things are also staying the same, and it is this unique set of circumstances that has drawn us here. New owner Danny Thomas is excited about the potential inherent in this beautiful and productive property.
And the Alupna Island Station's a very rare property. There's not many farms that you see that really don't have a neighbour, that have one point of access, that have the mix of country that this place does, that has a long frontage to the Murray River and also the Alupna Creek. If you want to have a business with provenance, a bit of a story, some history, you get all of that at Alupna.
The property has a rich history. It was originally part of the Alupna Run, taken up in 1840 of a country traditionally owned by the Yorta Yorta people. When we're researching stories like this, we'll read up as much as we can, and also cast the net out to see who's on the ground. This led us to the remarkable Bill Lavitt, who, at 87, has lived on the island for his entire life. As an interesting aside, he's been keeping records of the bird life here since 1944. He's a keen and accomplished photographer. His work is published in the Australian Museum's seminal National Photographic Index of Australian Birds. Bill talked to us about the history of the island and some of the changes he's seen in his lifetime.
I worked on the station over there.
He's certainly seen plenty of people come and go, but probably not too many people like Danny. Now, Danny readily admits he's no farmer, but he does know a thing or two about real estate.
So I look after a business unit within CBRE called CBRE Agribusiness. We have a business which extends across all of Australia and New Zealand.
Despite that professional background, there was more than that drew you to Alupna. Perhaps you could talk about how you actually came across this place.
Yeah, Alupna was a bit of an accident, frankly. I was driving along the Golden Valley Highway off to sell a large cotton property in the Riverina, and I saw a for sale board on the side of the road for Alupna Island Station. And I remembered many years ago coming here with my father when he was offered a job to run the place, which he didn't take up. And so I said to the apprentice that I had in the car at the time, let's go for a drive. We went for a drive. We saw that it was the place that I thought it was, and shortly after that I set my mind to buying it.
Danny is not a sole investor. He has brought a couple of partners into the operation with whom he's done business before. They're effectively silent partners who are making a real estate investment. The partnership was attracted to many things about Alupna. Some were informed by their professional background. Other things, particularly for Danny, had a deeper, more personal foundation. This combination of the personal and the professional also attracted the station's previous owners, the Hayes, when Tony Hay, his wife Jenny and father John first ran their eyes over the property back in 1993. So then you saw that this place was on the market?
Yeah, just happened to come to the auction and it wasn't sold, and from there we just ended up putting a bid in on it. Dad had worked here the year before cutting hay for the people that owned it. That's how I got to come out here and have a look, and just loved it, fell in love with it, and from there we just put a bid in and were lucky enough to have no one really fight against us.
And what did you love about it, coming out of your dairying space and then moving onto Alupna, onto a different operation?
Probably always liked to come out the river. When we were a dairy farm, we used to always come out the river and that and have barbecues, or if we had our family up from down Gippsland and that sort of thing, we'd always end up out here at the river, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Just a natural draw card to be next to the river. It was just a lovely property.
And so what did you focus on as farmers once you got here?
Well, we concentrated mainly on the sandhills and put some more permanent irrigation in on the sandhills. Every couple of years we put in another 30 acres of sprinklers until we got to the stage where we were sort of growing 100 acres of lucerne, probably.
The island itself covers about 2,500 hectares, carved off from the Murray River by Alupna Creek. The station takes up 750 hectares, which includes 40 preserved for native flora and fauna via an agreement with Trust for Nature. The Hayes gave a lot to Alupna, and the property gave a lot to them. As is the case with so many farming families, the question of succession became more pressing, and the Hayes had to make a decision. Nevertheless, after 25 years, it was time to transition. So why did you decide to make that transition?
The main thing was for Tony to have bought me out or something. That would have been too big a transition. Probably the transitioning on as a family and keeping us together, and was a way out. We'd worked up to something that was a pretty valuable property and fairly lucrative.
Because you had 3 sons who were all busy doing good work in, not far away, but in different places. There wasn't going to be the next generation coming onto the farm.
That's right.
So you had to work out a succession plan that kept things working, and transitioning out was a part of that.
Yeah, well, probably that was the only way out, really, I think, to do it successfully. Yeah.
But we've had the chance to stay here.
And that is what makes this succession story so interesting, and a potential template for others facing similar issues. Part of what's unique about the operation here is the fact that you've been able to have a continuity of management.
I think this is a fairly rare thing as well. They've both been good enough to stay on and continue running the place for us. I'll have to say, having sold a couple of $1 billion worth of real estate, whilst you might have managers continue on, I've never seen a vendor stay on and run it for an incoming purchaser, and that's a real luxury.
How does having the vendors still in the space now as managers and working together work in terms of the ongoing evolution and development of Alupna?
It saves time. It saves an enormous amount of time not having to rediscover where every pipe and riser and valve is located. There's the intellectual property and history of having run the place for 25 or 6 or 7 years or whatever it is that they were here for. Whereas when you come in as an incoming purchaser or an incoming manager, no matter how good the handover, you can't beat the knowledge that they have. And so when we think about now where we're going to spend some capex and do some further development of the place, be that irrigation or just land development generally, you know, they've got all of the background, they know where the water flows, they know what it's like in a flood, they know what it's like in a drought and what you need to do to manage those things. So it's an absolute luxury to still have them here.
It's an unusual circumstance to be able to have both owned the place and now still be involved post-sale. So how's that working?
Well, I feel all right. I don't know. It's up to Tony, what Tony feels.
I'm getting used to it. It was the first 6 months was fairly hard because you do a lot of things different to the way you do them. And Danny had big ideas.
Yeah.
Some might be good, some might be bad, but I just had to, all of a sudden I had to think, well, it's his property now. He can have the big ideas, he's got the money to back it, and I can add whether I like it or not, and he can take what I say for granted or...
Jenny Hay told us this new arrangement has reduced all of their stress levels and led to a mellowing of the relationship between Tony and John. For Danny, it gives confidence that the skills are there on the ground as they work together on the next chapter of this story. Can you talk about the sorts of agricultural endeavours you're engaging in now on Alupna?
So our Wagyu enterprise is as an alliance breeder or supplier to David Blackmore. So David owns a feedlot about 40 minutes from here at Finley, and we supply steers for David's feedlot. Our Lawson Angus are part of a cooperator agreement with Harry Lawson, where we provide bulls for them. That's a new enterprise that we've just started. The cropping, and you'd be better off to talk to Tony and John about this, the cropping that's undertaken is in support of a grazing enterprise. So it's about producing fodder as efficiently as we can and augmenting our growing season and making sure we're filling the feed gaps.
It's clear that Danny is enjoying stretching his brain into this new space. It also gives him a sense of credibility that flows beyond his industry.
You've got to put your money where your mouth is, I think. If you look across the investment universe, there are lots of things you can put money into, but that's the thing that's driving your background knowledge, the intuition or instinct, if you like, to know what to invest into. And so you should take that opportunity.
Do you think that what you're doing on Alumna has the opportunity to have a resonance for the broader community of which you're a part here and give them pathways that might allow different endeavours that ensure the continuity of that community?
Yeah, Mark, I think you'll see assets here repurposed. The land, the soil types are great. They've got great water delivery infrastructure, the drainage is excellent. There's been literally billions of dollars invested here over 100 years to develop this area up into a production powerhouse. So what smarter people than me will work out is, how is that optimised then? How are those resources redirected to go into the next cycle of production?
Danny's commitment is informed by more than just economic opportunity. He feels a strong connection to the region. Time and again at Outback, we see that people with a strong connection to their country have a powerful sense of responsibility.
I went to primary school in Nathavia and grew up in the broader region. This is home. Also the idea of being able to come back to northern Victoria and invest here in circumstances where there's been some real challenges here, that ticks a few boxes for me in terms of, life fulfilment, if you like.
And then, I guess finally, how do you see the next 5 years?
Well, I would like to stay here, and Danny's fine with that, and I'm fine with that. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you've just got to learn that you don't own it anymore, and to go with what they want to do. It's certainly easier on me. It's lifted the load on me as far as financial. It's just so. It's great to have that set up, and I think Danny's happy with us, and we get on well. And yeah, it'll be just whether I get to a stage where I want to change.
Hitch the camper van up and take off into the bush.
That's exactly right.
It's lovely to have that opportunity now.
Yeah, that's right. And we're still young enough.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No
beautiful.
worries.
Very good.